Alright everyone, so One Piece chapter 1145 just came out and we have a lot to unpack. Let's start with Loki and Rocks. This chapter established three very important things for Loki. First, last chapter already pretty much gave away that Loki is set up to be a more tragic and empathetic figure than initially introduced as, but this chapter essentially confirmed it. Luffy and Loki's interactions, loved him, a lot of comedy and a lot of similarity in their natures and their past kind of coming through there. And the fact that Oda's just writing this scene basically to make Loki feel a little bit more endearing than he initially came across as, I think that essentially confirms that we are set to get a more sympathetic version of Loki from here on going out as we begin to understand more and more regarding his character and what role he has to play both thematically and narratively over the course of Elbaf. So Loki's a good guy, but the second big piece about Loki is the fact that he seems to be set to have an important character arc because Loki is misguided. We already could kind of understand that with all that I'm gonna destroy the world talk and the fact that he was such a bad person growing up, at least according to his reputation. We don't know the details fully, but the thing that this chapter sealed in is that Loki grew up looking up to the wrong figures. While Luffy had Shanks as a model, Loki latched on to another figure, Rocks. And I have a whole video breaking down how much we just realized about Rocks from this chapter alone coming out next week. This chapter kind of clicked a piece into place that will put into perspective Rocks' story in contrast to Rogers, as well as Blackbeard, Luffy, and Loki's story today, and the broader concept that Oda's been building up thematically with this set of characters, and the concept of exploring what Nika's role truly is in the Elbaf arc that's slowly becoming a more and more prominent concept. So watch out for that because I think I have a very interesting analysis coming out for you all next Tuesday regarding some of the most important characters in the story. But first, this month, you can get some of One Piece's all-time classic islands for your walls. Alabasta, Reverse Mountain, Punk Hazard, and even Tequila Wolf. The posters are printed on matte paper, hand-cut by the artist himself. Each of these posters can be purchased individually, or you can get all four of them together for 50% off. You can also still get the premium package if you want to appear on my streams, and in that case, you can also choose any poster from 2024 as well. So if you want Alabasta, Reverse Mountain, Punk Hazard, and Tequila Wolf for your walls, just hit the link in the description below. All posters from 2024 will also be available in the complete original set bundle. And finally, Loki's little flashback this chapter established one more important thing, which is that if it wasn't obvious already, this arc is going to be very, very important for Shanks. We all understand that Loki's scenario with Rocks here was supposed to be a clear parallel to Luffy's scenario with Shanks in chapter 1. Luffy, this kid, looking up to this pirate captain, wanting to join this pirate captain's crew, realizing that he's not ready. Us getting that exact same parallel storyline right here with Rocks and Loki, but the whole arc of Elbaf also began with again that same parallel scenario with Colin, this little kid, looking up to Shanks, wanting to join his pirate crew, and Shanks saying no. Oda is bringing up the same parallel scenario multiple times in the same arc, right? Colin to Shanks paralleling Luffy and Shanks in chapter 1, and now Loki and Zebek paralleling Luffy and Shanks in chapter 1. Loki and Shanks coming into conflict. All of these things are connected. Shanks is the big pivotal missing piece throughout this storyline. Even this chapter, they're talking about Shanks. Luffy still wants more information about Shanks. That is what is waiting for us around the corner. Shamrock's not here, but he will return. Shanks is going to make an appearance this arc, and he is going to be very, very important in this storyline. Honestly, where we are at right now, we are just probably scratching the tip of the iceberg for what Elbaf's full plot is going to be. I still don't think it's going to balloon out into a really, really grand and complicated arc like Wano, but I do believe the storyline is set to have a lot more dramatic ups and downs than people are realizing, and certain casts of characters are likely set to make an appearance at Elbaf that I think people are not expecting. But I would say that Shanks and the red-haired pirates, that is definitely a guarantee at this point. They are the missing piece that would click together a lot of the ideas of this arc. Now, there was one big takeaway with the little flashback regarding Rocks that I don't see a lot of people talking about. Why was Rocks there at Elbaf? What did he come to the island for? I believe everything circles back to the fruit that Harold had. Elbaf, as far as we know, doesn't have anything else that special. It doesn't even have a road poneglyph, unless the road poneglyph was once here, and then the man marked by flames took it or something like that. But for the moment, it seems as though Elbaf does not have a road poneglyph, and we don't even know whether Rocks was really on the trail of collecting all the road poneglyphs or anything, at least at that point in time. But there is one thing that seems very important that Elbaf did have that was passed down through the family tree, which was this fruit, this legendary fruit of the giants. Loki, we know, has now eaten that fruit and now believes that he is ready to play the role of the sun god and destroy the world. Could it have been possible that Rox also wanted this fruit? Could Loki be happy that he's now gotten to eat the fruit that his idol Rox once desired? I think a lot of questions are going to be answered once we finally find out what Loki's fruit is, and I think that's precisely why Oda is hiding the fruit from us for so long. We thought that we would get it once Loki was released. Oda didn't release Loki, and most importantly, Oda established that Loki is very injured right now, so we're not about to see Loki in action anytime soon unless something really drastic changes, which means, again, the fruit reveal is being held off for a longer period of time, because that really is the key to a lot of what is being set up here in Elbaf. I've dropped multiple videos on what I believe the fruit to be. I think it is genuinely going to be pretty close to another version of a Nika fruit. I've explained over and over why that is, so I'm not going to get too in-depth into it here. But I do believe that's what we're heading towards, and I do believe that that's likely why Rox was here at Elbaf. I think that there was some interest in another version of the Nika fruit. Now beyond that, for the rest of the chapter, I've just really enjoyed a lot of the interactions over the course of this chapter. We got a little Zoro-Sanji combo going. Nice to see them in action again. Just some classic, Zoro-Sanji complaints and banter as well after that. We got some good comedy with Gerd enjoying the fact that, Luffy is essentially putting Loki through the Luffy experience, which is a lot of accidental mistakes that might cause you a lot of pain and headache, at least in their first introduction. Upstairs, we got a nice Jinbei moment, I suppose, with him putting out fire with some water. Truly impressive stuff by Jinbei. Not much else to say there. I do find it somewhat ridiculous that Robin was absolutely zero help in stopping these kids from going towards the flame. There was a lot of discussion last chapter about how if kids need to be pulled back one by one from the back of the line, then the person perfectly suited for this type of task, where you need a lot of giant hands at once, is literally the character right there who can sprout lots of giant hands at once immediately from the ground. It would have been a good moment for Robin, but it's possible that Oda is trying to give shine to all the Strats, so maybe we had Jinbei putting out the water here, and then maybe next chapter we'll have Robin pulling back the kids. But if in the next 1 to 2 chapters she's not using her ability to pull back the kids, then something ridiculous is just going on. We also got some more action with Scopper Gaban and Dorian Brogy. Basic stuff, but it does establish that at least strong fighters can take out these gigantic monsters still without too much difficulty. I mean, Dorian Brogy were introduced to us in the story, literally destroying that island-sized fish, and they were standing next to gigantic skeletons that were both about the size of half an island themselves, that Dorian Brogy had been fighting over for hundreds of years. So Dorian Brogy at least being competent Elbaf fighters who can tackle, the big monsters. Love to see that. Scopper Gaban pulling his weight as well, and also flexing some really good observation haki. I think a lot of people noticed that he had good observation haki when he got to the castle before Luffy and Zoro, and this might just be another example of that. Remember, Elbaf is really big, so him being able to sense that stuff from this far away is very impressive. Pleasant surprise of the last couple chapters has definitely been Colin. He annoyed me initially, but I find him to be a funny, likable kid at this point. I also like the fact that he just had a really funny comment this chapter, which is that he likes the kids at his school even if they all hate him. So I don't know, I find that very endearing. He just has a very nice attitude about him. And I'm very excited that they ran into Gunko, because of course, if you watched my latest video, I have a lot of thoughts about Gunko. I strongly encourage you guys to go check that video out if you have not already. I think that Gunko is potentially set to have one of the most powerful character storylines in all of One Piece. Right now, she is definitely going to play the role of evil world government bad guy, but I think that the full story of who she is and the character arc that she is likely to experience over the course of Elbaf, of her rediscovering her true self, her original self, is set to be one of One Piece's most heart-wrenching, especially with how it plays into Kuma and Bonnie's storyline, because I do believe that Gunko is a clone of Ginny's. And I think with that revelation, I think a lot of what Oda is setting up to do character-wise with Kuma, Bonnie, Gunko, and Shamrock in the storyline will really come together, as well as putting together a lot of the theme of family that has really been developing over the course of the Elbaf storyline. So definitely check out that video if you have not already. I do think it is one of the strongest theories that you will see regarding Gunko, and definitely look out for my analysis regarding Rox and his philosophy and ideology that has bled into modern day characters that's coming out next week, because I do think this chapter really shed a lot of light on that. And finally, if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like, comment, and subscribe.